Oh, who's down in the left corner? Is that Lonnie? Hi, Lonnie.
He's muted. He waved.
Got it.
All right. So, okay. So we'll put that on the warrant unless someone disagrees with that, and we'll vote on it at a later date. Okay. And then, do you want to talk about the records room?
Yeah, I don't know if Kathy or Lynn want to take that one. That's the other historic request. I don't know if you have a dollar amount yet.
Someone came on. Who just joined us?
It's Bill Mchenry. Good evening.
Okay. Hey, Bill.
Hi.
Okay. So I'm sorry, Dan, say that again.
Well, so the Historic Commission is looking for funding for, I believe, an engineering study, which is the step one of applying for an MPPF grant for the records room.
Right.
And I believe it's ultimately a 50-50 grant. But in order to even apply for the grant, there's a whole ton of background that has to get done. So I don't know, Kathy or Lynn, if we had a dollar amount on this yet.
I do not have one. Kathy?
Yeah, no, we don't have a dollar amount yet. The only thing we were able to confirm is that we do not have to have the preservation restriction ready for approval at the November STM, that Mass Historic will take care of that if they select the building to receive funding. So what we need, I think, is what we know is we need an engineering plan in order to go through with the application to get right into funding. So we could ask them for money to do the engineering plan and then stall the project out another year, but I'm not sure the building
Gonna last.
Well, so
it won't.
I think
well.
to be clear, the intent is to ultimately apply for a grant to restore the building and get it to a point that it could actually, it's usable. I mean, could it be rented out or used for some municipal use, or at least just preserved? It's, on the verge of disintegrating. So this would be the engineering to do that, what needs to get done.
It would be good to know the dollar amount, because I don't think that we need to bring this to town meeting, because it's doing like an evaluation on a project that you might apply for CPA funds, correct?
Yeah, so this could be, you say this could be administrative.
Yeah.
If it's under 5,000.
Or
what if it's over 5,000?
Oh, I think it could be over 5,000. I was just looking up
5%.
how much.
That's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have like $25,000 in administration, so we could use that for this type of a project.
Okay.
So we need to call, if we're going to use that guy, we should have him write us a formal proposal.
Right, exactly. And he was just busy at the time that we were trying to get him to do an engineering design for us. But he said he'd be freed up now to start working on it. So we'll get that together like in the next week. I'm sure we can get him to respond.
Okay. I just want to see in the administration, we have around $30,000. So it seems like we should use administration for this. Do others agree?
Fine with me.
Yep.
Okay. So why don't you come back with specific details, and then we'll vote on that.
Okay, excellent.
And then the last one was the beach.
Yeah, so there's two for parks. Again, I sent you something pretty late. So the first thing, Parks is now looking for the next step on the beach project. So it would be the landscaping, site improvements. We have the engineer plan. It's looking like we're going to want to replace those retaining walls, redo all the grass, redo the play area, install like a new swing set, all that. We're still trying to pull together proposals. Parks is meeting tonight at 7 to talk about this some more. I'm not 100% if we want to get this done now or wait till the annual, because it's looking like we won't be able to do this work until next fall, because there's no way of getting it done in the spring before we open. In terms of ripping out and replacing those retaining walls, that's going to be a major undertaking. But I think we're probably looking somewhere in the realm of 30 to 50,000 for this. So this would be a pretty big project that we'll need to get some serious cost estimates together on.
So do you want to wait till the ATM then?
Well, I wanted to at least, if we could get it as a placeholder and then come back with the numbers. It's, unfortunately the turnaround on this meeting was super short notice. If we end up passing it over, that may be what makes the most sense. But if the deadline to get stuff on the warrant, at least it's there if we want to move ahead, and then we can come back to this committee with all the details.
Is the drainage being worked on at the beach?
Yeah, so that's what all this noise is. They Alan did the catch basins over the very end of the summer. They cleared out the access path. That was all done. They're grinding the road, and they're gonna re-slope like the section of Taft Ave in front of the beach, and install the curbing, which is the huge thing to just stop the water and get it before it washes out. Because what's happening is it's just washing out the beach completely.
So then where will the water go if they put a curb in?
Well, it directs all the water into the storm drains where it's supposed to go. So what happens? Where does
the storm drain water go?
Into the lake, But I'll have to give you the tour. You'll have to see what he did on that path. The outlet for the stormwater was like way further back, and it was all brush, and the water was just like stagnating. So they went in there and cleaned it all out. So now it's a channel, so it goes right into the lake. It doesn't sit, right, which I think was some of the problem. It's not really anything new. It's the same water was going down across the beach into the lake there too. It's just this is redirecting the water into the storm drain, so it's not washing the sand out, ruining all the landscaping. I mean, we have 2-foot deep canyons in the sand.
Mm-hmm.
So just trying to redirect this to somewhere we can control it. Because there's no point in spending any money on anything down there until, you'll see it's what's ruined these walls. It's the water pools behind them.
So Dan, on those retaining walls, are you talking engineered block? Or are you talking about poured concrete? You might be better off an engineered block.
I believe the plans that we had done call for like an engineered block wall.
Yep.
And I forget what we discussed. We may only do one of them. The upper wall is in much worse shape than the lower wall. It just, if you're going to do that, it's going to make a huge, huge mess. So we're going to do that first.
It's too bad that the water has to still go into the lake,
Yeah, and I don't know, I think we can still look at,
As far as
what, Lonnie?
It's just a tough place to try to, or a tough area to try to redirect it anywhere else other than getting it to one end of Taft Ave or the other, which is still those catch basins, unless they've been improved, are likely still dumping into the lake, such as the catch basins that are even on Route 16 along, in front of the old marina are still dumping into the lake. And the silt and stuff that comes in, that becomes an issue with the state, where every once in a while we have to deal with them on that and just go in and dig it out. But it's even harder there to find a location. It's not like there's a retention pond close by or anything like that.
I want, could it just, if you put a lot of gravel in the soil, underneath the catch basin, would it soak in the soil, a lot of it before it goes in the pond? Or
a lot of that's going to depend on your subgrade, what's under there. For instance, we have a project in Blackstone that we're actually finishing up right now, that we put in leaching basins underneath at the end of the road, because we were getting some runoff down there and it was going in the road. Another road a lot like Taft Ave that didn't have much in the way of drainage already built into it because it's an old road. And now we are redirecting that through another piece of property across the street down into, again, just dumping into what their other drainage runs into again, it's just wetlands, it's not the pond per se, and a lot of that, the reason we're doing that is because the leaching basins, at some point ledge was there. So they just would, on a major storm, would just fill up. I don't know what kind of basins that Alan had put in. Did he replace them, Dan, or did he just use what was there? They're likely got, there's going to be, then if they're newer, there are going to be ones that retain the sills and whatnot, and we're just getting the runoff water down there, and they'll be able to be cleaned out on an annual or biannual basis.
Yeah,
again, maybe get with Alan to get the full details, but that's what I would expect, especially if they're new.
They did all new. I could walk down there, but I'll lose my Wi-Fi. They're brand new catch basins. One was, I'm trying to think, one was existing. No, they did 3 new ones and tied into the existing, but brand new modern catch basins. And to basically collect, I think it was more collecting the water that was already there. I mean, it's not new runoff. It's not anything different. It's just getting it from ruining our landscaping at this point.
So was this a result of the engineer plans, or is this just,
Yeah, so this is what this is what Allen Engineering recommended. I can send you the plans. And then we're still working with them on the actual landscaping and all, the various trees and whatnot that have to get done. You can see they ended up doing a new catch basin up here that's not shown on the plan. I think because that's where the pipe was. All right, I froze.
okay, but I mean, they are following the engineering plan that you had paid for.
Yeah, this was designed. That was the thing. So we had the engineering came, this is what they recommended. These 2 catch basins here there we go. I don't understand what this did. All the new curbing, a new catch basin here, and then this is the fire access. And so now the next step is cleaning up this, like the beach area.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, we don't have a lot of good estimates right now. It was just, again, because of the short timing, we wanted to make sure at least got on the warrant, and then we could get the stuff done or pass it over.
All right, so we could put that on as a placeholder also. Does anybody have questions or comments? Okay. Send me the latest wording. Did it change from what you sent me already?
No, that didn't change. That was whatever I sent you.
Okay, and I'll read it. What he said is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of money from community preservation to fund landscape and site improvements and a new play structure at the town beach, or do anything in relation thereto. All right. Okay, so we'll put it on.
Okay.
Then I had a question for Lonnie, and then we'll work on Bill's motion. Hey, Lonnie?
Yep.
Is there any way that it seems like the turnaround, like Dan said, for this town meeting was so fast, like we barely had time to pull things together. But can't we do it digitally or something?
I'm confused. I'm sorry. What are you asking?
Well, it seems like we have to submit the warrant articles really early, because then it's got to get printed, then it's got to be put in the town crier.
Yeah.
And so it's harder to make changes. Is there any way that it can be done digitally, or is anyone looking into that?
I think
I guess I'm still missing the question. What do you mean done digitally?
I thought that you have to post the warrant, right? Before the meeting. So if it was done digitally, and then you had paper copies at the town, hall office, would that be legal? Could you do that?
Oh, I have no idea. That's a question for either Council or Kim. I mean, the process we have, I'm going to assume is the most expedited process, but I could be completely wrong. I don't know enough to be able to answer the question, sorry.
Dan,
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think the problem, so this was, I guess there's no nice way to say this. The select board voted on this on August 30th, and it wasn't sent out to people until I think almost September 20th. You know, I guess I wonder if we're always going to have two town meetings, maybe we should think about fixing the November date more in stone so there's more of a regular schedule. So we don't have to try and schedule it and coordinate. Like, you just know by this date, this has to be done. And for a few years now, we've been on 2 meetings.
Well,
Yeah.
I think it's been longer than a few, well, unless there was a change in between when I wasn't.
Yeah, no, you're right.
We've always had I believe we would have, sometimes we even had a September and a November meeting at one point, and then we cut them down just because we were having so many of them. So, I mean, I guess we'll have to just check on why maybe there was no notification of an email that was to go out that the warrant was open, but I don't think that we've done anything different than we've done in years past. And I don't know that there's an issue other than if something got screwed up this time or something like that. I'm confused. That's all.
it just seemed like it was like we got the notice that the warrant was open and then it was closing like in almost like a week or 10 days or something. It just seemed like it was, usually like you have several weeks or a month or something,
Yeah, and again, maybe there was I'll have to check if there was a mix up or a screw up. I mean, I know that there was people out. I know that, I know Laura was out for bereavement. And around that time, if I remember correctly, so maybe an email did go out late. I don't know that this is an ongoing problem. I think it was a one-off. So
okay.
we'll look at it from that standpoint. But yeah, I mean, things are pretty standard as far as I know.
Okay. Hi, Larry. Larry Pearson just joined us. So Bill has an article, and I will read what I have. It's about 52 Providence Street, where we're trying to build affordable housing. And the motion reads, or Bill, do you want to read the motion?
Well, actually, good evening, everybody. I was actually going to suggest that maybe I explain what it's about, because part of our challenge, committee members, is to maybe craft the wording so it's more understandable to the public. So is that okay with you, Ann?
Yep, that sounds good.
Okay. So at the annual town meeting, and before that at a select board meeting, the select board voted to allow, change of use for the 3.2 acres at Providence Street. And then at town meeting, we officially, voted that in. Basically, in legal terms, I think it's to first declare it surplus, but basically it said to change the allowable use for affordable housing. And furthermore, for the select board to have the authority to lease that property. Okay, subsequent to that, Mass DEP is considering our application for a public water supply. And because so many town parcels are contiguous down along Providence Street, they're looking at that project and saying, hey, wait a minute, you have all these accumulated flows that are aggregate flows. So they're looking at senior center, highway, the housing project, and they're saying, oh, you're way over the limit. You're going to have to build a water treatment facility. And the only way to get around that is to make it non-contiguous land owned by the town. So we can easily do that by just selling it as our way of disposing of the land instead of leasing it. So we got to redo the article that we did in May. But then on top of that, we need to add the land that is in the zone 1 of the water supply and the land that it takes to pipe the water down to the housing area. And that's the same thing, is to get around DEP, not really get around, just to come within their within their regulations. That's what they'd like to see, is that the town doesn't own any of that stuff. So we would be selling 23 acres to a developer instead of, the question is still out whether we could like give that land to Metacomet so the town doesn't own it. We got to check that out. But anyway, that's the challenge in writing the article, is to make it clear that we're not trying to move from 2.3 acres to 23 acres. It's just a technicality that we need to transfer the land like this. Okay, so I'll stop and then Ian can read the motion.
I just explained that the building would be on 3.2 acres, but then the rest of the 23 acres would be like under a conservation restriction because it's part of the well zone, and so it has to be, it's protected. That's all.
Right. So my question is, how much of that do you actually put in the article? You know.
So the article
So
reads.
anyway, so I'm sorry. I did send it to Kim and told her that I'd like to talk to Cynthia about it to iron out all the little details, because it might mean that the select board also has to vote on this or some part of it before the meeting. Sorry, Ann, go ahead.
Yeah. To see if the town will vote to transfer the care, custody, management, and control of approximately 23 acres of the 75.8 acre town-owned land on 52 Providence Street from the select board for general municipal purposes for affordable housing purposes. That sounds.
No, that's where you're missing that phrase. To select board. Remember you were wondering if that phrase was repeated, Ann? That's where it belongs.
Okay.
It goes from select board municipal purposes to select board control for affordable housing.
Okay.
I don't have the verbiage right in front of me. I apologize.
Okay. To select board control for affordable housing purposes and to authorize the select board to sell said 23 acres of said property for affordable housing purposes with 3.2 acres for housing and the remainder covered by a conservation restriction, or to take any other action in relation thereto. So any questions or comments?
Just to clarify,
Everybody's
sorry.
go ahead, Lonnie.
Good, Lonnie, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Just to clarify that when we do this, so when we sell off the affordable to be built, the water goes with that land to the developer. That gets us out of owning it, which in turn will have a conservation restriction on it though, but then it won't be contiguous, so we wouldn't have to have a water treatment. Is that what I'm understanding?
Essentially, yeah,
Yeah.
essentially correct.
Thank you.
Kathy, did you want to say something?
No, I just clarification because I'm trying to wrap my head around it. So the additional acreage outside of what is going to be designated for the well and for the affordable housing, that will be under a conservation restriction. That's what you said?
You're talking about the remainder of the entire 75 acres?
Yes.
Ann, do you want to answer that? Because I think the answer is yes, but.
I mean, it probably will be under a conservation restriction. There's an open space subdivision that's going to, if it gets passes, will give some open space that will abut that land. And it's landlocked, so we probably would put it in a conservation restriction.
Yeah.
The rest of it.
Would that, I mean, I know there was all kinds of talk at the very beginning about doing sports fields or
Right.
things like that in there. But that is going to pretty much close the door on that, right?
There's not really good location for the sports fields.
Okay.
I think the Trask property might be a better location for that.
Yeah. Okay.
I think,
Right.
isn't it a matter of access and parking?
Yeah.
Because you'd have to do a wetland crossing if you came in the same way as you did for housing, and if you came in the other way, I don't think it looks too good that way either.
Dan has his hand up.
So just for the previous comment, I think in terms of parks, unfortunately, we do need fields and stuff, but that location is so busy with highway and everything going on. I think it would be too much unless, even, and like you said, to access the backland would just be very difficult. I think in terms of open space, a really good use of that property is to look at potential paved trails because it's right next to housing. I think there's some federal grants for ADA accessible trails, which is something we don't have yet.
Yep.
So I think that might be an opportunity to explore that right where it lines up with potential senior center, senior housing. And then just to make sure, I think Lonnie asked this too, but so any water supply will be completely owned by the housing. It'll have nothing to do with the town. We don't have to pay anything for it, manage it, not our problem.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I like that plan too. I know.
That's
So
always a good
Yeah.
plan.
I had some conversation with Bill and this engineer about seeing if we could like share a well between senior center and combine things and maybe make money on it. And it sounds like what Bill just explained, all these rules. Once you start combining it, you get into all this Title V stuff. It's not worth it. It wouldn't. Yeah, it'll cost us way more because you have to build a septic plant and everything.
Yeah, well, I think everybody knows that my real, fervent desire was to be able to get a win-win by providing, enough water up there under the control of the town for any senior center expansion, et cetera, because it's a great location geographically or topographically or whatever in the town
Yeah.
to have wells. But that is out the window. But I don't know. Maybe there is some hope later on. I guess it would depend on who owns the land up there and whether we could actually create another zone 1, up there for different purposes.
Yeah, I don't know, like, with CPA, since we use CPA money to fund that, like, I don't know if we could put a well on there, but you'd end up conserving the property anyway, so that could be something to look into.
If you could do like
exactly.
2 wells next to each other and we own one and they own one, just share zone 1. Just having the space for a future well, I think, as we're learning these other projects.
Right, and once you have an access road in there, to maintain the wells, you could just extend it a little farther and just have another zone 1 up there. And the only visible effect on the landscaping would be the wellheads in a tiny little area that's perhaps fenced in.
But the only thing is would you run into that same problem with the town owning contiguous pieces of land?
Yeah, I don't know. Good question. But our flows would be not in that calculation. So
because
you know what I mean? There's probably some headroom there for the senior center to expand their flows. They're not going to go over the 10,000 gallons a day or whatever it is.
So I guess that could be something to look into, but
right.
I can ask if a well can be put in open space land purchased with CPA funds.
I know CPA funds can be used for water resource areas. So like zone 1s, you can buy land for that purpose.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So are you thinking like if the senior center is expanded that could possibly be used as the public water supply?
Well, like you look at what we're dealing with at the town hall and having to jump through all these hoops and a non-conforming whatever. I think just having the location, so 50 years down the road, if we want to sink a new well up there, we've got the access and space, and it's just a matter of like Bill is, maybe you need to extend a road, or maybe you can lease the land from them. It sounded like the issue was ownership. If we owned the well that was feeding everything, but we won't because they'll have their own well. It just happens to be, it's the zone 1. So I think it would be separate enough, but I think just leaving open the door for future options up there, which it sounds like this still does.
Yeah.
Here.
So, I can put this as a placeholder. Are there any other comments or questions?
Well, I just wanted to comment that I don't think, like technically we need to mention that it has to be in a CR in terms of the article, defining the article. But, the question for the group still is, like, how do we clean up the language and at the same time, sort of let people know that this is just a sort of a reframing and making adjustments and not, expanding the housing area by 10 times. So I'll just throw that out there rhetorically. And if you have any suggestions, we'll be batting this around over the next couple days.
Maybe Ann's doing, can somebody just put the article in the chat? Just so
Yeah, I am.
I would suggest
you see it?
maps. It's go.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
I don't know why it looks like that, but it looks weird.
I mean, you might want to throw my original in there too, and it's sort of just a little bit less information.
Yeah, well, his just doesn't have the section that says,
I think
Splits out
the
Splits out the
3.2 acres
3.2.
and then the conservation restriction, that section.
Right. That's right.
I mean, I think sorry, if I'm the general public and I don't, my concern is, what's this going to be? So I think making it clear that the end goal isn't really changing. This is some behind the scenes mechanics. It's all being protected. It will only be affordable housing.
Right.
I think that's
Still
what
3.2 acres.
Right. Concerned about, make sure we have maps.
That was my concern too. Because, it'll be in the paper and then at least people will have a better idea of what we're trying to do.
Who's doing I guess I would want to make sure that can that conservation restriction be in place before we sell it, or as we run into the
I
problem
think
of it to be finalized?
I think it would have to be in place, or there'd have to be something in the agreement that says,
Just thinking to the problems we've had with, you never know.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, you don't want to lock up land that they then need for the housing.
I mean,
So.
they're going to need it for their zone 1 well anyways, you know what I mean? So I don't think that they would want to build on it, or they could build on it, but we would have it like the restriction put together or clear in the agreement. All right. Anything else?
Nope.
We'll have to meet again before the November town meeting, but that's all I have.
Motion to adjourn.
There it is.
All those in favor?
All right.
Okay. Good night. Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Right.
Okay, thank you.